Hi everyone, this is Faiza Raza. Today we are going through the week 2, lecture 2 of operations management. We will be talking about operations strategy and customer business context. So the learning outcomes for this session will be define the term operations strategy, developing an operations strategy using the model provided, explain the concept of trade-offs in operations management, explain how the product lifecycle might inform operations strategy, and in the lastly, we will discuss the utility of generic operations strategies. So first of all, defining the term, what is strategy? So the aim of strategy is basically um, to guide organization throughout its lifetime by defining its scope of activities and also configuring its resources to carry out this scope of activity. So basically strategy is all about asking questions, who the customers are, what the customers want, how your organization can deliver a product or a service that will meet and satisfy the customer's needs. Okay, so by definition, operation strategy is the set of major decisions about core competencies, capabilities, processes, technologies, resources, and tactical activities necessary in the function of chain of functions that create and deliver product and service contributions. So from making the product, from developing the product till delivering the product to the end user, this all procedures are basically involving the operations strategy. Okay, so how you are producing the how you are producing or like manufacturing your product, and what the end customers are basically for whom you are producing that product, and how in which ways the product or service is satisfying the customer's needs, okay, your target customers needs. So there is a short video about the introduction of operations strategy, which we have discussed in the class, and then purpose of operations strategy. So the main purposes are basically to contribute directly to the strategic objectives of the next level up to hierarchy, then to help other parts of the business make their own contribution to strategy. Okay, so there are, as you know, in operations, there are different departments. Okay, you can say production, you can say like production department, then you can say finance department and marketing. But so there are different departments. Okay, so every department is contributing towards the main operations, that like you can say the main corporate strategy, the main operation strategy of the organization. Okay, so then the contribution of operations, there are basically 4 levels for the contribution. So in at stage 1, basically at stage 1 you need to correct the worst problems which are arising. Then at stage 2, you will be adopting best practices. Like correct the worst problems means that, okay, for example, if you are creating some you can say some product, okay, so how, like the basic structure that can satisfy the customer's need, the customer's basic needs. So that is basically how the problem is satisfying the customer need. Okay, so how you are satisfying that customer need is basically the worst, correcting the worst problem. So at stage 2, you are adopting the best practices. Okay, at stage 3, you are linking that strategy with operations. Okay, and at stage 4, you will be providing a competitive advantage. So so at first stage you will be creating basic strategy, basic like problem solving. Okay, and till stage 4 you will be creating some kind of difference in your product or service, which is different from others, okay, at the same industry. So one by one we will be discussing these contribution levels. So at stage 1, internally neutral. So in this stage, at the basic level, operations does the minimum to support the business. It is not aware of the overall business strategy, or if or of its performance in relation to comparable operations in other organizations or to overall standards. Okay, so as I said that it is basically these are at this stage you are doing the basic basic customers, like basic problem solving. Okay, so there is little attempt to improve performance, and the view of the rest of the organization is that operations is a source of problem rather than of solutions. Okay, so from a resource based viewpoint, a company with an operational engine working at this level has no foundation upon which either to plan or to implement strategy. So then at stage 2, it is basically externally neutral, we name it as. So to move on from stage 1, even before consideration is given to the business strategy, the operational engine must become self-aware. So conscious of its own performance limitations, it will do this by gaining an external perspective and so begin to compare itself with others, similar operational units that exist within the market. This awareness coupled with management determination to change will begin to move the operations to a higher level of performance. So at level 1, you are achieving the basics problem solving levels, and at level 2, you are slightly going upwards toward achieving a performance level. Okay, so the third stage. So the third stage is basically internally supportive. So in this, operations will begin to generate its own strategy to guide it in the execution of activities that are required of it in pursuit of the overall company strategy. Then it may be that some competitive advantages is achieved through the excellent operations, but it is not mandatory in that stage. Okay, so senior management will be confident in the ability of operations to support the direction that the business tasks. Then in final stage, in stage 4, externally supportive. So in this stage, basically you are creating a competitive edge for your product or for your service. So this is basically this stage defines most clearly with a resource based view. Here operations has moved further. The change in state from that achieved in stage 3 is a subtle but significant one. Okay, so the level of performance reached at stage 3 has made it best in class, achieving a competitive advantage. But now at stage 4, operations is innovating, proactively driving towards future markets by creating products and service that are one step ahead of the competition. Okay, so briefly, or summing up, like in stage 4, we are creating competitive edge, okay, or competitive advantage, which will make your product or service different from others at the same industry or at the same field. Okay, so how is operations strategy generated? So there are 5 basic, you can say, basic assumptions that are basically kept while making the operation strategy. So in views are basically the process are basically, first of all, it is very necessary to keep in mind the corporate strategy, corporate level, you can say corporate level goals. Okay, so activity description will be translate top level strategy package into operationally usable terms. Okay, so purpose is to ensure that the content of the corporate top level strategy package is understood, so that any operational activity is totally aligned with the corporate mission, vision, and objectives. So every company is having its own vision or its own perception in the customer's mind. Okay, so you need to, while making the operation strategy, you need to focus, you need to like follow the corporate mission. Okay, so the second focus is customers. Okay, why the customers are basically at this level, you need to define, like in the perspective of customers, you need to define the product and service features that operations must deliver that are important to customers. Okay, so to ensure, purpose is basically to ensure that the customer's value proposition is fully understood and focused upon. So by the customer's perspective, you can say that you must realize, okay, that what the customers want from your like from your product. Okay, so what are the customers needs basically. So in the third In the third like stage, you need to consider the performance, like performance of your product or service. Like activity description will be determine the performance levels that the operation must achieve. And purpose is to understand the performance of the competition that operations must exceed in order to be successful. Okay, so in the fourth step, in the fourth like place, you will be recognizing process. So activity description is plan the operational processes that form the business of the competence of the operation. Purpose is basically to ensure that the operational processes are coherent with the value proposition. Okay, so the fifth and the last thing to consider is infrastructure. So whatever you are making operation strategy for, whether it is like it is achievable or not through the infrastructure, like for example, if you need some kind of machinery for achieving the production, the specific production. So are you having some kind of machinery or not? Or this kind of, or warehouse or these kind of things. Okay, so activity description is basically plan the infrastructure required to support the effective and if efficient execution of the processes. Then purpose is to ensure that the infrastructure provision supports the operational processes. uh, we will be discussing it one by one in detail. So uh, corporate strategy is basically, you can say, the corporate view is basically the first consideration while making any kind of strategy, any kind of operation strategy. Okay, so this step links the operation strategy to the corporate strategy. The output of the corporate strategy making process will have been packaged as mission, vision, and objectives. These need to be translated into similar operational statements. Then operational vision is articulates, communicate the desired state of performance that the operational unit wants to achieve. Operational objectives are basically define the level of performance that needs to be achieved to meet the vision. For example, if you talk about Geely, okay, so their vision is their you can say their statement is basically that engineers are world problem solvers. Okay, so for achieving that thing, they create such kind of automobiles. Okay, Geely is basically an automobile company, so they create such kind of automobiles which are basically focusing on engineers. Okay, so they yeah, so uh, they are following their like operation strategy according to their what you can say according to their vision mission statement. Okay, so then operational plans are detailed sequences of activity that, if undertaken, will lead to the objectives being met. Operational priorities set the focus by defining what is important in the short term as the plan's progress. Okay, so if you are having like a project of producing 500 products of some like of pens. Okay, so you need to you need to identify, you need to plan how you will make like how you will make those final products. Okay, how you can achieve that project in like in the time, in the limited time period. Okay, so step 2 is basically the customer view. The following list contains generally accepted elements that customers may value in a product or service. Some combination of them will feature in all buying decisions. So first comes price, or how much the product costs. Okay, so customers are basically focused on price. Not all the customers, but most of the customers are like price conscious. Then functionality, or what the product does. Then performance, or how well the product does what it is meant to do. And then variety, customization, or how well the product fits the need. Then quality, or how closely the product meets its intended purpose. So while going forward, the performance view. So once all the product and service features are understood, the key consideration is to exceed the performance of competitor operations. then some way of measuring operational performance is required. There is a distinction between tangible and intangible elements that must be considered. So intangible elements, the things to consider is basically the mechanisms within the operations that create the product or deliver the service are more directly connected to the performance of the output. And then in intangible products, basically these are more abstract and tend to be measured indirectly, in the same way as the mechanisms that support delivery of these elements also tend to act more indirectly. Okay. So the fourth step is basically considering the process view. Okay, so having understood all aspects of the product and defined the performance of the operation, the individual processes must be planned. So it is important to consider the following: how is conversion actually carried out? What are the basic operations principles of the system? What competencies will form part of the system? Then what are the limits of the system? Where is the system located? How is the system organized? How quality ensured? Okay, so the last step to consider is the infrastructure view. So the tactical decisions around the shape of the conversion process that will taken in the previous step now need to be supported by similar decisions on the support infrastructure. So decisions should be taken in the following areas: management structure. It can like what should be the hierarchy? Okay, is it flat or is it matrix? Is it like the hierarchical structure? Is basically management system is basically autocratic or empowered or democratic or job design, whether you are like okay in the management system, like you whether you are delegating authorities or whether you are like keeping your authorities in your like the system, the decision system going from upwards to downwards, or it is like delegated authority system. So the job design tasks highly divided and de-skilled or craft-based enterprise control system can be discrete or can be integrated. Automation levels and type of technology, shape of the supply chain must be considered, like suppliers used and how they are managed. Okay, so these are the steps to consider in making operation strategies. So now we will discuss about trade-off. So in operation system, possible trade-offs are low price against available variety, speed against flexibility, and personalized attention against volume of customers. Then in the class, we have discussed product life cycle model. So this is the product life cycle we have discussed again and again lots of times. So this is basically the life cycle is first of all birth stage. In birth stage, you are producing, you can say the product is made. Okay, then it is a growth stage. So this is basically you are making your product in the market, like you can say you are keeping your product in the market. Then maturity stage, it is the like sales period. Okay, your product is selling out. Then decline stage, it is going out of you can say out of the market, like out of stock. And then withdrawal. So it is the end stage when your product is finished, like your product has been you can say has been delivered or has been made. Okay, so how can operation strategy be simplified? So there are some Porter's generic strategies. First, it is differentiation. You are creating differentiation from others, okay, in your product or service. Overall cost leadership, like some companies, they always sell on low prices and in good quality. Then focus and emphasis on saving niche in market, okay, on serving niche in market. So a value proposition in terms of product leadership, operational excellence, and customer intimacy. So these things in the end summary we have discussed. So these things we have discussed in this lecture about strategy. So this is all about today's lecture. Thank you so much for keeping attention. Thank you. Take care.